Hey guys, Chris from Provo Beast Audio Installation, and in today's video we're going to be installing a giant touchscreen in this 2014 BMW X1. Now in this install we're going to integrate this brand new touchscreen to the existing factory audio sound system. Let's get started. Before we dive into things here, a couple of things to note. There's a couple of different trim available for this generation X1, and whether you have the trim that has more than just the pocket here or not, this kit that we're using today is compatible against a ton of different trim and options. So if you want to see if this kit works for you, we'll link this kit down in the description of the video. You can check it out for yourself. Without further ado, let's go ahead and dive in. The first thing we need to do is do this pocket disassembly, as our new radio will actually fit in this location. So to get to this, we do have to remove a bit of trim. We also have to remove the center console because one of the components included with our screen is a knob that'll go here in this little pocket by the gear shifter. And we do need to tap into the back of the factory radio, so that has to come out as well. Now we have a panel trim removal tool. We have a couple of different sizes here. These are only a couple of dollars on Amazon, and we can link them if you need them. Trim panel piece needs to come out of the way to expose the screws needed to get into this pocket. Now it's easier to start on this end and kind of work your way down. Just like that. A few harnesses here that we need to disconnect. It looks like our switch here has fallen into the dash, so we need to work it back out so we can repair that. We popped out our little hazard and door lock switch here. We're going to go ahead and disconnect it. Pull this out of the way here. Next here, way back on each side is going to be two T20 Torx screws. Let's go ahead and remove those. Now be very careful you don't drop these in the dash. I do have a little magnet here to help snag the screw. Okay, now we can go ahead and just slide our pocket on out. Alright, that leaves this big open spot for our screen mount. Alright, next step here, the HVAC controls have to come out, and then it's going to expose two screws so the radio can slide out itself. The radio has a harness, the main harness there, that we need to connect our T-harness to, so that hence why we need to pull this out temporarily. And while we're in there, we're going to mount actually a little iDrive style switch panel to control our touchscreen up above. So to get to that, again, we're going to grab our panel tools, go ahead and get our trim up that's around the gear shifter. Just like so. So next we're going to pop this little lower trim panel out, just held in with two clips. And it's connected with a ribbon cable. This comes as one piece here. And we're going to disconnect the harness. Now these tabs, essentially here on the back here, you unhook the lock here on the top and it slides, forcing the clip out, just like that. And you can now take this as one piece, carefully set it off to the side. Okay, next here is we have two Phillips screws on each side of our radio. Let's go ahead and remove those two Phillips. Finally, I'm going to grab back behind the radio and just pull. Now, we will need to disconnect our main harness off the radio. Same lock mechanism. Push the lock down, and it's going to force the plug out. Just like that. Okay, there's our factory radio. We can set that guy off to the side. Alright, so with everything now disassembled here, at this point of time, let's head over to the bench to show you the kit that we're using for our install. All right, so here at the bench, the kit that we're going with is this giant multimedia screen that'll fit perfectly in the cubby location. And looking at the screen itself, if we turn this off to the side, notice that the bracket will fit the size and mounting locations as that pocket that we removed. Now looking closer, there are no hard buttons. It's solely a touchscreen, but you can install the included switch panel here, so you have hard buttons and we can locate them there in the pocket here in the center console. And we'll show you more about that here in a moment. There's a few connections here on the back of the unit. If we turn this on over, here on the back we have some harnesses here, a GPS antenna, a Wi-Fi antenna, as well as the remote that goes in the center console. Everything plugs in there. All your other accessory harnesses will go there as well. Included with this kit, like I mentioned before, is an OEM style button setup where you can easily adjust everything on the screen. Even though the screen's a touch screen, you still have this as well. Looks factory and will integrate nicely with this system. Comes with a USB harness. It comes with your main T harness here. This T harness, one end plugs into the factory radio. The other one plugs into the OEM plug that we removed from that factory radio. It's a nice little T harness, and then this end from that T harness connects to the radio itself. Now it comes with an auxiliary output, so in the event your audio does not pass through this main harness, you need to use this in order for the factory audio sound system to pick up audio. You may or may not need this, just depending on your install, and we'll know as soon as we get everything going. So with a Wi-Fi antenna, external microphone, and a GPS antenna as well. Finally, has this nice long extension cable to connect our remote switch to our aftermarket screen. Taking a closer look at our T harness here, depending on your trim level, BMW, you may or may not have fiber optics. And our T harness isn't equipped with any fiber optic pass-through. Your fiber optics usually go in these slots here. You can see these little guys. And obviously there's nothing there. And so this T harness, if you had fiber optics in the factory plug and don't relocate them to this new end of the T harness, you're going to have a lot of factory features not work in your vehicle, causing issues with the audio and navigation and such sound system. We grabbed our trim piece that goes up by the gear shifter here. Now this pocket, if we flip this on over, has 4 T20 screws. And what we can do is remove those screws and install our new button panel that'll fit in that location using those same mounting screws. Alright, so we started prepping all our harnesses here. At this point of time, we're ready to head back to the car to get everything reinstalled. Okay, so we're here now looking in the dash. These 2 cables are part of the fiber optics. Remember, we're looking at these 4 little holes here, and we have something in there, which means we do have the fiber optic system. Our T harness doesn't pass that through, so we have to unpin these and plug them into our new harness adapter. And you'll see that there's basically a little tab that we can pull up, and it easily comes on out. And simply all we need to do is grab our new harness and plug them into the exact same location. In our case, they're the very outside, and they clip into place, just like that. Next, this end will plug into our factory harness. Make sure it all lines up here. Looks like everything else passes on through. And unlock the harness. Lock it back up, just like that. Now this long guy needs to go all the way up into our cavity where the pocket used to be. Feed this up into the dash. So we have our screen just resting up on the dash, so we can start making those connections. We're going to start down here in the main cavity, and what we did here is, you saw us beforehand, we went ahead and plugged our harness into the factory harness plug. Now remember, if you have fiber optics, if one of these 2 ports are occupied, unclip it like we did, as you saw, and then go ahead and clip it on the new male end here, which we've done. Ours was on the outside, so we put it in the same slot on the new male end here. And with that now connected, what we did is ran our T-harness connection up. On the right side, there's actually plenty of space that passes up through there, working our way up into the radio plug. Now, same thing with our secondary harness that controls the center switches that we're installing. That plugs into our little harness here. We loomed that as well, ran that all the way down. Here in the center console, that'll plug into our switches. The third connection, this is equipped with USBs, which is the smaller harness. Same thing, ran it down that channel. Now it splits off one end. We actually found a hole and ran the non-CarPlay side into the glove box. And then the red side is the CarPlay side. And what we're gonna do is install the red side. We're probably gonna just pop a little hole here in there, in this little cubby down below. So we have a quick access to CarPlay if the customer ever wants to do a wired CarPlay connection. So we loomed the outer portion here to give this a little bit more protection. And we're gonna go ahead and mount that here. You can probably put it up here. As for the GPS antenna, we're gonna get you inside here where we found a great little spot. There's our GPS antenna, fits right up in there, and it's nice and snug. And then our Wi-Fi antenna, we just stuck it right there on that bar. It's nice and secure. And really that takes care of those ones. Ran all those up, and those plug into the auxiliary connections here on the back of the screen. Now we are doing a backup camera. We're gonna do that in a separate video. So if you wanna see that video, we'll link that down in the description. Finally here, down below, which we haven't talked about, there is an aux output from this main harness. If your audio from the screen is not playing on the aux setting of your factory radio, you'll have to plug in this audio out with the included aux into the aux input. That's located down here as well. Let's go ahead and get our screen mounted and finally finish hooking up the rest of our connections. Now this big harness plug here, this is just a lot of extra wiring now that we have to hide back behind the factory radio. So tuck it out of the way. Let's get this as far back out of this pocket as possible so it doesn't bind up or cause any interference with our radio install. Now we did a little modification. We popped this out, just 2 tabs, holding in our aux and USB port, and our aux has 3 wires hanging off. So rather than having our aux out, because we need it in our application, it's not picking up the aux without this cable. So fortunately we do have to install it, and rather than having an aux on the outside, we hardlined it from the back side. We just teed in. And with this up and out of the way, we cut an aux cable in half, strip back the wire, and aux cables will have 3 wires in it, which we connected to the 3 wires on the back of the port itself. Now, in your aux harness, you're gonna have a black, a white, and a red. And what we did for our black, white, and the red is we connect our black wire to the white with the red stripe. That's our negative wire for our aux signal. White wire goes to this white with a blue stripe. And then finally, our red wire goes to white with a brown stripe. We hooked all those in. We soldered on there, kept that original connection intact, feeding ours in there. Then now we're gonna go ahead and tape up and over those soldered connections and fish this wire now up into the dash. Now this avoids us having a wire out front. So if you're ambitious and wanna give that a shot, that's a good way for you to hide that aux cable without seeing it out front. So let's go ahead and loom this up and finish up. Port back in, got our aux cable coming up, plugged into the aux or audio output of our unit. It'll feed into the aux in just from the back side to the aux in of the radio. So audio is now taken care of. Got everything kind of tucked back in there. We just have our main harness that needs to go to the radio. Everything's all tucked back in there. And we fished control wire down below, fish it up underneath here, and it comes out this point, and we plugged it into there. So we need to get this all remounted. All right, so let's go ahead and get our radio reinstalled with everything now organized in the dash. Let's plug in our OEM radio. Make sure that harness locks into the radio, just like the factory one did. Put it in, lock it up, and also be sure to make your other connections. Made our 2 connections here. Make sure your harnesses are out of the way so the radio can slide on in here, just like that. Now let's go ahead and do a test to make sure everything's working properly here. Okay, everything boots up, everything's working with the steering wheel volume controls. Our little aux mod seems to be working great. So at this point of time, we can go ahead and fully reassemble the rest of the car. We got CarPlay all booted up here. This seems to be working really nice. Volume up, volume down, track up, track down. That seems to be all working great. Factory radio is working well. Remember, we have to be on aux for the audio to pass on through, because we snagged that aux input there just on the back. We hard lightened in. All this back together, we can navigate through these. Obviously, this is a touch screen as well. Lights up like the factory buttons do. Looks really, really nice. Fits in that spot really perfectly there. If you have any questions on what we did here, go ahead and post a comment below. We'll link this kit down in the description. And like I said, it'll have all the information with that link in case you're wondering if it's gonna fit your X1. Thanks again for watching. Now, if you want to see how we did the backup camera on this X1, link that video down in the description, which again walks you through step by step. Be sure to hit the like button if you like what you saw, and don't forget to subscribe. We post great content on the channel all the time, and we will see you in the next video.